Right. Hello, everybody. Let's see here. We got quite a few participants coming in. Perfecto, perfecto. All right. We already got 11 people here. To the 11 of you that are already here, thank you so much for being on time. We're going to take a short moment and just allow maybe a few more people to trickle in here for maybe a minute or two. In the meantime, I can provide a brief introduction of myself. My name is Ben Stewart. I am the Customer Success Manager here at RedBrick AI. And as the slide says, thank you so much for joining us. This is our first ever live webinar for our annotation tool. And I'll be happy to dive into who we are just in a bit of a moment here. But in the meantime, get comfortable. I'm just going to probably take about 2 more minutes, 2-3 more minutes maximum here to allow people to, maybe people that are trying to jump in, just remembering now that they have a call. And so if you want to grab a cup of coffee or a cup of tea real quick, now is the time. And or if you want to throw a question into the Q&A, I'll be happy to field that as well. Okay, there we go. See, some people are still coming, and this is why we got to wait just a moment. Although I am very thankful for all of your patience. In any case, it's exciting to be here. See, we've got quite a good variety of names and teams. The registration form was very exciting to go through. So give it about just 1 more minute and then we'll kick off here. Right. Pardon me. Unfortunately, I think I'm starting to come down with a cold, but that can wait until after the webinar is over. Okay. Looks like we've kind of evened out here among the participants, so I am going to get started. Thank you, everybody, for joining. As I've already said, my name is Ben. I am in customer success here at RedBrick AI, and I am very excited to be welcoming all of you to this annotation tool demo webinar. The purpose of this is multifold, right? We are a medical annotation platform, and we work alongside some of the top teams that you'll see on this slide here. You've probably heard of teams such as RedBrick AI, Olea Medical, Mass General Brigham, perhaps Cure, depending on where you're doing your annotation work, which continent, which time zone, whichever's closest to you. And we are the software by which teams such as these you're seeing on the slide and others are creating ground truth data of exceptional quality. So we are very happy to be dedicated to the medical niche, the world of radiology AI, for diagnostic and visualization purposes. But I can generally speak to what RedBrick AI is. what we do, strictly what we're selling, maybe to just clear some things up before we jump into a live demonstration of the product itself. So RedBrick AI is functionally two things, right? We are an annotation tool. As I mentioned, we are a medical tool, specifically for medical applications. Many annotation platforms out there are what we call more horizontal, in the sense that they try to address a wide variety of annotation use cases for a wide range of industry practices, right? But we're very happy in our medical niche. We work in very close contact with the clinicians and the radiologists and the annotation teams that are performing work on our platform to create and design and develop specifically for AI products that will become, that will enter into clinical use. So we have the annotation tool, and underpinning complementing the annotation tool is a centralized data annotation platform, right? Where it's very easy to create workflows, to manage these workflows, and to manage the people that are working on them. Whether or not you have an internal team, an internal annotation service, or you're using an external labeling solution, we make it very easy to keep track of all of the activity that is going on, all of the work that's being done on your images or volumes. And that's goes hand in hand with having the annotation tool itself. There's no need to integrate anything else. There's no need to download any plugins. It's all in one place, and it's available for you. Regarding the data pipelines that you can build, the people that are involved in AI or the ML ops might want to perk up their ears here. We go to great lengths to allow you to build custom data pipelines that you need to either create novel annotations on your medical data within our platform, or if you have a model perhaps that's already produced annotations, you can easily upload them to our platform to perform quality control on them. We allow you and your team to build the pipeline that you need for your use case, which quality control flows come in all shapes, sizes, and colors, which is why we try to make them as flexible as they can be to address a wide variety of workflows, but also as robust as you need to ensure that, again, the end result here is that your ground truth data is nothing short of exceptional. So that's what we're trying to facilitate here. Regarding compliance, we are HIPAA compliant, we are GDPR compliant, we are SOC 2 Type 1 compliant, and privacy by design is built into our app at every single level, particularly in the way that we handle the storage of images and volumes. I'll give you a hint. We prefer to integrate storage methods into our platform, which is why the vast majority of our customers are taking advantage of our native integrations with Amazon S3, Google Cloud Storage, and Microsoft Azure. However, if your team is potentially working with a storage solution that is not among those that I just listed, please rest assured that we're always happy to reach out and have a discussion with you about how we can integrate your network and security architecture in such a way that preserves your privacy and regulatory compliance, because we care deeply about that as well. And underpinning everything that I have just said, we have a robust Python software development kit that allows you to do everything you are about to see inside of our user interface and much more. So that is, if you have a team, an organization that has a dedicated data or perhaps an automation engineer on your team, they're generally very happy to find that automating things is extremely easy with RedBrick AI, especially if you're working with hundreds or thousands of images or volumes. And with that, I'm going to wrap up this introductory overview here, and we're going to move on to the live demonstration, because I'm not seeing any questions in the Q&A. But just for the purposes of this, please feel free to just toss a question into the Q&A if a question comes up. I'll do my best to keep track of it as we're going through things here. But also bear in mind, we will have a dedicated question and answers period after the demo. So if you'd rather ask your question immediately, please feel free to ask it. If you'd rather hold it off until the end, that's also totally fine. The way I'm going to run this demo is functionally from the perspective of an annotator on our platform. But you'll see in this next window here, I also have an admin view up, which will be helpful for some complementary moments here. But as a labeler on RedBrick, when you jump into the platform for the first time, you're going to reach the home screen, right? And the home screen for a labeler is relatively simple. We're working on the principle of least privilege, which is just by and large a good security principle to operate by. And you'll see that my admin has given me access to 3 projects here. I have a project that's entitled Brain Brats Study, which is a project working with a data set of brain MRIs. I have a project here entitled Large Organ Project, which is mostly abdominal CT scans. And then I have another brain project called Consensus, but more on that in a moment here. Let's jump into Brain Brat Study as a labeler to begin. And we see we are presented with what looks like just a list, right? In the top left, we have an expandable panel that shows our current role on the platform. We are a project labeler. We have a certain number of tasks assigned to us, and we can access productivity information based on the work that we have done over the last 7 days or any other custom date range that you'd like. In the center of the page is kind of the heart of the matter here, and these are the images of volumes that I have been assigned to work on. So in this case, you'll see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what are Brain Brats studies here. And we'll just pop one of these open in just a moment. But just so we can clarify what this project looks like here, you might see this word stage here. And the stage is the part of the project that I've been given access to as a labeler. Now, I'm going to switch over to my admin view. You'll see in this same project that the admin created a project with a label stage at the beginning, a review stage, a manual review stage, and a ground truth stage at the end. So as the admin, I was able to invite my labeler to this project. I was able to restrict my labeler's permissions to the label stage, and then also assign them images and volumes here. So coming back to my labeler view, you can see that because I have access only to the label stage, all of my information, all of my tasks and filters are limited to the label stage, with the exception of one feature that we came out with actually very recently that we call reference standards. Reference standards are a group of annotations that admins can add to a project to give a visual reference for annotators, right? So it's very common when you're doing annotation work to have radiological reports, and these take a wide variety of forms, from just a series of screenshots in terms of how to annotate a structure to just a Microsoft Word document with written instructions. On RedBrick AI, it's very easy to take a set of annotations that you know are good, right? So you can refer to this as a baseline or a reference, or however you'd like. You can upload it to a project, and then that gives your team or your annotators the ability to see what this looks like, right? So we can pop this reference standard open very quickly here, and you will see that I have a reference standard being displayed here, and my admin has left me a glioma, specifically in the series Brain Brats T1 Contrast Enhance. We're going to jump to this label, and you'll see that there is a glioma here, and I can just walk right through it. I can see that my admin has, gone a little bit outside the lines, but this is the baseline that they're leaving for me, and I can reference this as a labeler and say, okay, I have an understanding of what needs to be done here. I can return to my label queue, and then we can just get to work. In the meantime, I'll point one thing out, or two things rather. Each single task that is worked on in RedBrick AI has what's called task details or task history, which is a chronological record of everything that's been done to a task, which, once the project, things move down and up a project pipeline, things are assigned, reassigned, unassigned. We keep track of all that information, and you can view that in the UI, or you can export it. We also have intelligent caching on RedBrick AI, which is what this little menu icon shows here, which was, while I was speaking about all these things, in the background, RedBrick AI was loading the images and volumes assigned to me to my local cache, which means that if I want to pop open this image, for example, should be Brain Brats 006, but naming conventions may vary. You'll see that this loaded almost instantaneously. So Now that we are inside the annotation tool proper, there's several basic zones here. We're going to walk through them one by one. I'm going to try to be brief. The center canvas is where you'll see your images or volumes. In this case, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 series that have loaded. And this can be confirmed by the layout tab displaying the number 4, which means that I have 4 series inside of this study, making this a multi-series task. You can see that my admin has also designated the name. We have a T1 here in the top left, a flare in the top right, a T1 contrast enhance in the top left, bottom left, pardon me, and a T2 in the bottom right. The left-hand bar contains information related to the structures that we're going to annotate, but we'll touch on that in a moment. What I'd like to start with is just the environment settings. So RedBrick AI makes it very easy for you to manually control what your windowing width and leveling should look like. Please note you can also determine what opacity your labels have, as well as choose whether or not to show an outline for them. A particularly useful feature when you're trying to keep people inside the lines of it during an annotation flow is our thresholding feature, which now that we're working in this T2 in the bottom right, you can see it's glowing blue. The glowing blue range is the thresholding range that I've established. So hypothetically here, if I wanted to annotate the ventricles, I'm going to establish a thresholding range that includes the ventricles. And you'll see it's also caught some of the, what I assume is just a nasty looking glioma here in the top right. And it's very easy at that point for me to come in, create an annotation. I can even make it 3D. I was working with a very small brush size earlier. And annotate within this range. You'll notice that I'm painting outside the lines. However, since thresholding is on, the annotation has only been painted onto the area of the ventricles, and this applies to 3D. So that's a very easy way to just determine, like, it's a very easy environment setting that you can configure as a labeler, or you can ask your admin to pre-configure it for you, and that will help with keeping the accuracy of your labels in check. One final thing I'd like to point out about environment settings here is the layout. We loaded with a 2x2, but if you click on the layout in the top right here, you'll see that you have the option of dragging and dropping any visible views. You can choose from any combination of 1x1 to 2x2, 3x3, or anything in between. And this is completely up to you. This can also be reconfigured by your admin. Or you can also simply just find the series that you'd like to work on, click it to transfer it around. And the same applies to the reconstructions that have come with the series itself. For now, I'm going to stick with my T2 in the top left here. So I'm actually happy with this. But I'd like to maybe use these the flare, the T1, and the T1 contrast enhance as a reference. So if I'd like to do that, I can easily just maximize this viewport. And that gives me the other views all synchronized. We're on slice 78 globally here. And it would be very easy for me to just reference like again, this glioma in the top right, as I'm annotating here in the central view. That option is completely available to me. Sometimes, however, you need to be moving several pieces at the same time, right? Spinning several plates all at once. So that was a misclick. My apologies. What we have on RedBrick is a feature that's called IntelliSync. And all it does is it allows you to move simultaneously across several series at once, which people find to be particularly useful, especially with people that are doing neurological MRI scans or any kind of structure where you're using deregistered images or images with different contrast levels as a reference for annotation. Another very common view that you can access on RedBrick that's people find to be very helpful for labeling is the 3D mode, which we will see in a moment here. I kind of don't want to spoil the surprise, and MIP, which you can just easily toggle if you really need to get a better visualization of the vasculature involved in whatever series you are trying to view. So if, however, you're trying to focus on one specific structure, or not structure, but maybe one specific series, let's say, you don't need these other brains right now, you're only trying to work on this T2 scan, and you would like to see the reconstructions, we do have multiplanar reconstruction that can be easily toggled on and off. In our case, every time you turn on NPR mode, we create a novel layout tab for you. So it's extremely easy to go back and forth between these views and annotate across them. Please do bear in mind that on RedBrick, all of these volumes and things like that are uploaded and displayed on the imaging axis by default, but you can annotate here, you can annotate on reconstructions equally. RedBrick is completely agnostic to that, so that's completely up to you. In rare cases where you might need an extremely specific view, maybe you need to catch a certain angle, maybe you need to look at a structure in a way that is not necessarily going to work with a traditional 90-degree layout, you also have the ability to have to turn on oblique planes for the viewport, and that will give you the green toggle here, and you can just move those up and down to adjust and get to the oblique plane view that you need. So that is that. What we can now do is move on to creating an actual annotation. So let's just delete this one. We can start completely fresh. Perfecto. I'm going to save my screen and we'll move on here. So creating an annotation in RedBrick is extremely simple. In this left-hand bar, I promise you we'll get back to this. The left-hand bar contains all of the structures that you are going to be annotating here on RedBrick AI. Your team has to generate this for you, right? Because it's, we try to give you as much robustness and flexibility as possible in terms of what kind of structures you can work with in RedBrick AI. But you, as a labeler, will already jump into this, and there will be a pre-prepared list of the things you're expected to annotate. Please note that we have your admin can also turn on things like nesting. In this case, I have length measurements here, such as the AP diameter and the transverse diameter. These are nested just for ease of viewing, as well as infections, such as an abscess or an encephalitis, which have also been tucked away, which I can just easily control that. It's my annotation process. I can do what I want. But there's also several other ways to filter your labels up here at the top, depending on what you want your experience to be like. Your admin also can tuck hints in for you, for examples, right? In this case, we have for the ACPC angle, my admin is telling me to create an instance, and then, I can even put a data attribute on the object label. So let's just do that very quickly now. I'll go to my sagittal view since we're working with ACPC. I want to create a new instance of ACPC. So I'm going to click on one, establish my angle, and there we go. That annotation exists. If I want to return to axial, for example, and use a segmentation this time, because in RedBrick AI, we have several object label types that you can use, such as an angle here. You can see we have length measurements. And then obviously segmentation is kind of the center of the show in most cases. So let's just create a new segmentation right now, a glioma. I've created a new instance of the segmentation. And you can see that I'm default selecting the brush tool. That's also pre-configurable. And I can come right in, control, scroll with my mouse, shift, click, drag to move if I want to pan. I can adjust in the right-hand panel any modularities associated with my brush tool, in this case, whether or not I'm painting or erasing, whether or not I'm using 2D or 3D, as well as the brush size. If you are working with overlapping structures, you can turn on overlapping by default here, which means your annotations will then stack. It is off by default. Or if you need further control, you can disable the background editing, which means you can only annotate on annotations. So very similar to the thresholding tool in that way. But let's get down to the meat and bones here, rather meat and potatoes. And with RedBrick AI, left click to draw. You can see now that I don't have thresholding on, I'm going a little bit outside the lines, but thankfully all it takes is a quick right click to erase. The brush tool is a very good way to do this. Many people also use the pen tool to erase. So I can just come in here, go around. Boom, that's now cleaned up. That's very nice and tidy. I can do the same thing down here. And there we go. That is a ventricle more or less annotated. I've obviously not done a perfect job because I am not a board certified radiologist, so please bear with me. The last thing that I do want to mention here in terms of how to go about manipulating your labels after you've created them is using this little hamburger menu. And you'll see that there's a wide variety of actions you can do. So let's break them down very quickly. You'll notice that after I created this instance of the glioma, that this has been locked. We lock annotations on RedBrick just to ensure that annotations are only being edited when you want them to be edited. It's very easy to edit the label manually or even hide it, which you can just do with the hotkey. Or by clicking hide or show inside of this action menu. You can unlock a label if you need to do additional work on it, if you need to modify it, for example. Or in this case, we might want to jump to the label to make sure that we haven't lost it and toggle vibrant. Just absolutely make sure that it's as visible as we can possibly make it. So in terms of these other copy attributes, this is kind of a more high-level feature that allows you to take metadata and extract that for a comment, to a clipboard, for an admin. And what do I mean when I say metadata? Right. RedBrick AI allows you and your team to tuck metadata into several different places in the application. And this has been relatively visible, whereas you have what could be metadata for a radiological report tucked into a specific object label. In this case, this is instructions on how to annotate this. So let's go back to this series. Metadata can be tucked into sub-attributes for an object label. So right, if you have a structure called glioma, I could have an attribute called glioblastoma, like I could have a type attribute or another type of blastoma. And these data points can be affixed to that object label point for export. A more common example, perhaps, is when people need to have data points affixed to a series. For example, a very common one is scan quality, right? The annotator has to open the platform, they have to take a look at the scan, and they have to determine how good the quality is. Maybe it's good enough to work on. Maybe the scan is terrible and requires external review. Maybe it's so bad you can't even annotate. And these data points are useful for your team, or your admins are asking you for it, or your project lead is asking you for it. We allow you to create this metadata point and tuck it in at a series level, at an object level, and also at a study level. So for example, I have a series data point that's called scan quality, and I can easily take, in this case, series, the T1 here, I'll designate it as excellent. Maybe it is a very high quality scan. This one down here seems like a very high quality scan. And I can affix these data points to each series, save it, and you'll see now that I have 3 series data points that have been created and will be present and visible upon export. On the study level, in a study is this unit of work that we're viewing right now. So in this case, this study consists of 4 series, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And my admin has asked me to make a determination on the type of white matter hyperintensities that are visible in this study. We have a pretty nasty structure here. Again, not a board certified radiologist, but I can just, maybe that's an ischemic stroke or the result of an ischemic stroke. So I can affix that data point to this study, and then that will also be, again, visible upon export. I'm going to take a brief moment and pause. I've been talking quite a bit, and just maybe give everybody 10 to 15 seconds. Let's just call it 30 seconds to maybe throw a question into the Q&A regarding the tool, regarding metadata, regarding the layout, anything that I just said. Just 17 participants. Alrighty. It doesn't seem like we have any burning questions, so I'm going to proceed in that case with the demo. In order to, well, some of you might have noticed that when I choose a segmentation type, there's a variety of tools that appear here in the top bar. The good news is that we have lots of tools to choose from. Oh, we do have a question. Perfect. A guide in case you need to refer. That is an excellent question. So when we're, I guess I can speak tech on answer live. Yes, I'm going to answer this question live. A guide in case we need to refer. If you need to refer a study to another member of your team, for example. Yes, Angela, thank you. I'll get to your question in just a moment. If you need to refer to a colleague, if you need to refer to an admin, if you need to refer to another radiologist or something like that, there's several ways to do this. One common way is by leaving a comment on our screen. So let's just say, for example, let's just say that I have a problem with this flare, right? Let's just say that 77, slice 77 is too fuzzy. I cannot define the outline of glioma on slice 77 of flare well. You can leave this as a comment, and you'll see that Theodore Roosevelt has created this comment. And you can even take a pin and pin it directly on the canvas, which is that little yellow pin that you can see right there. It's kind of moving. And what that pin does is that anytime somebody else opens this task, opens these brains, right, they're not going to see your comment, but all they have to do is go to the comments panel, come down and see, the outline of the glioma on slice 77 of flare, left mouse button, and boom. Now we're in place. Now your team is informed, and you can choose next steps and move on that. Another option that you have if you need to take the task out of your queue and you just cannot work on it anymore is raising an issue. I have an issue, please check T2 slice 50. You can do the exact same thing, and you can instead raise an issue. As this dialog box says, raising an issue will send this task, this study, these brains, out of your labeling queue and send them to your admin. They will force your admin to review what you're looking at, respond to you, and send it back. So those are two very simple ways that you can bring in other people on your team. And if we go back even to this main screen here, you'll see that I have raised a task and that, in this case, the T2 is not oriented correctly. Please re-upload was the comment that I left for the admin. And I'm still waiting on a response for this, but I can't work on this because I raised that issue. Excellent question. Next question. Do we have a manual for this? I'm going to answer this question live. We do have a manual for this. Thank you so much for the questions, by the way. Questions make my heart sing. In terms of a manual, we go about this in several ways in RedBrick. You can access a lot of things inside of the annotation tool itself. For example, if I mouse over things like windowing, you'll see that this video pops up down here. This video is a micro tutorial to walk you through what the windowing feature is, how it works, and tips and tricks to optimize it for your workflow. So we have these mini tutorials for all of our environment settings for the comment and layout panel as well. You'll see them in various parts of the app when you mouse over. We also have them for each segmentation tool inside of our segmentation toolkit. And what I would recommend if you were to ever jump on the platform is to just watch these tutorials. We made them very short on purpose because we wanted them to be concise, easy to digest, and they give you points, tips, tricks, and even hotkeys in terms of how to annotate using this tool, common pairings, but we're also going to discuss that on the call today. In any case, you also have access to our documentation, our changelog. You can email support at any time if you need help. And we also have our changelog and documentation are all public facing. That's just docs@redbrickai.com. And we also have all of these tutorials up on our YouTube channel. So please feel free to check them out. We also have admin tutorials for how to get things set up for a project, invite your labelers, and so on. That seems to be the end of the question. So if I have not answered your questions, and there we go. Great, thanks. Thank you for letting me know. I was just about to ask, Angela, you are reading my mind. Thank you so much. I'm assuming that maybe the chat would make more sense, but that's a pre-configuration. I'll bear that in mind for next time. Let's maybe get into the weeds of something more complex, though, quickly here. I hope everybody's doing okay. Hope everybody's, it's been 35 minutes of me aggressively talking at you. So you've all been doing a stupendous job. Let's open up a CT scan, CT axial rate. So you'll see our object labels in the left-hand panel are all large organs. In this case, the heart, segmentation, liver, kidneys, lungs, descending aorta, and spleen. These are all segmentations. And when it comes to segmenting and annotating, we know that a lot of users and a lot of clients are used to what I was showing with the brain brat study, right? You take a 2D brush and you annotate a structure, you go to another slice, you use annotate it again, you go to the next slice and you annotate it again. That is possible. I'm not here to critique or judge. Again, I'm not a board certified radiologist, but RedBrick AI makes it extremely easy to take structures, especially on contrasted images, or even without contrasted images, and really just optimize that workflow, smooth it out, and take what could be hours and turn it into what could be minutes. So what do I mean by that? Let's go through some of our toolkit in a little more detail here. I have a coronal view here of the chest scan, and you can see we have this nice descending aorta coming down. And what I could do is do what I said. I could just go through each of these slices and manually annotate these using descending aorta in the brush or the pen in 2D, right? That option is available to me. But what I would rather do on RedBrick AI, especially because I can, is use something like the Grow tool, specifically in 3D. So what I'm also going to do is I'll find my starter slice here. My Grow tool is on. I'm in 3D. I'm going to left click and I will pull. And you can see that this structure is being filled. Now, you'll see the loading occurring in the top right as I continue to pull. And the reason for that is because this descending aorta is going all the way down into the chest and turning into things like celiac arteries and whatnot. So as soon as I release this left click, my segmentation mask has been created. And I can turn on my 3D view here to get a better sense of what this looks like. Right. So I have done this entire structure with one click. I could have gone farther, right? But that's just, it's up to you. And you can very easily come in and trim this if you'd like. But the point being that we have a suite of 3D tools that are designed to make your lives as annotators as easy as possible, especially in instances like this where you have, a very single, very clearly defined structure that would be kind of insane to go through one slice at a time. There is a slight maybe problem though, and we see these little dots coming through. Fortunately, we have a tool for that. That is our hole filler tool. I have the exact same option. I can go with my hole filling in 2D and just left click to fill those tiny holes, go to the next slice, left click to fill those tiny holes. Or what I can do is just set my hole filling to 3D, give it a click, let RedBrick AI do its job, and you'll see that there are no more tiny holes. Throughout this entire nice descending aorta, you see the arteries and things like that coming in here, dividing nicely all the way down. And that is, in my opinion, a largely completed annotation. Worst case scenario, you have to come in with the brush tool or the pen tool to do a tiny bit of cleanup. But in any case, that structure is done, that structure is annotated. So let's move on to another one. Just get my axial view up here. Yeah, and you can see that this same structure is coming through as well. Where I have the descending aorta is also visible in the axial view. So what are we going to do next? I have a list of structures here that I could potentially annotate. Let's move to the kidneys. How do kidneys sound? I feel like annotating a kidney. Let's go here. Sagittal view. I want to bring this back. There we go. Okay. You can see now in our sagittal view that this right kidney is significantly higher than the left kidney. So let's just start working on the kidneys here. I'm going to annotate an axial view, and we're going to bring it all the way down. My kidney is right here. You can see that in my other projections. But again, I have the same option of taking this structure here, starting on slice either 44 or 45, going all the way to the end, but that would be a little crazy. So what I'm going to instead do is use one of our automated tools, in this case, FAST, which is RedBrick's, our version of Meta's segment anything model. Oop, I did a misclick, that's my apologies. And you'll see that all I have to do is click and drag, create a segmentation mask here on this slice. Now, this segmentation mask has been generated. I see the question. I'll get to it in just a moment. You see the segmentation mask has been generated, and this is great. And I can finalize this right now, and it'll be a 2D segmentation mask, and that's also well and good. But I also have the option of, scrolling up quite a bit here. Let's just say, well, let's just do, in the interest of science, right? Let's go up 20 slices. And we see the extension of the kidney right here. I'm going to just draw a box around this. And I can turn on my 3D to check. And we see that the kidney has been interpolated all the way across that slice range. I'll finalize this. And that is an instance of kidney. With this same instance, I can continue doing the same thing, right? I can continue going to the next screen, creating a bounding box, but that is an option. Before I jump into the next structure, I will address this question. Angela, do those tiny holes affect the QA of the annotation if not filled? That's an excellent question. Do they affect the QA of the annotation? I can say I've seen projects with clients where it does and does not, right? Some people are, for example, very concerned with boundary lines. They're very concerned with just the borders involved with like a region of interest. And some people are really looking to have like a volumetric measurement of a structure. So it's very much a case-by-case basis in terms of whether or not the tiny holes are going to affect it. But either way, you have the choice of leaving the tiny holes, or with hole filling tool in literally one click, you can fill them in. So it's completely up to you. It's really going to depend on what kind of annotation your project manager is going to ask for, or your team lead is going to ask for. I've seen both cases personally. If I have not answered your question, as always, please do not hesitate to let me know. So what can we move on to here? We can even, how about the spleen? Spleen seems like a good structure to annotate. And I don't know why my tool keeps coming back here. There we go. Got my contour up. Got my coronal view up. I want to do the spleen. We can just do that as another example here. We have the kidney here, the left kidney coming in, the right kidney. And you'll see as we reach about slice 119, 120, the spleen is going to come into here. So let's do some annotation on the spleen. I'll use another one of our semi-automated tools, in this case, the contour tool. And the contour tool, again, just like anything else, you can go point to click if you'd like, or you can just use it as a pen tool, alternate to click and draw. And I have a mask, or I have rather a annotation that will become a mask if I click on rasterize here. But I prefer not to do that. I try not to recommend that to clients because I understand that annotation work is extremely time consuming and, it's by the hour work. So in the interest of efficacy and avoiding brain fog, we have things like the contour tool. So you can either do a contour. We also have a part of our contour tool called a smart contour, where all I have to do is kind of navigate to the edge. And you'll see that RedBrick AI has determined what the contour should approximately look like. I'm going to find that, left click and drag to smoothen that out even further. There we go. We're just getting a little bit of morphological down here in the bottom. Good. I'm going to let that go. And same old song and dance. I'm going to scroll up. I'm going to slice 125. Let's scroll up 10 slices to slice 135 and do the exact same thing. The contour tool caught the edge. I left click, I drag to smooth in and out. I'm happy with that. Now I can rasterize. Rasterizing that contour, you can see it here in the bottom, has created an interpolation range for this. And the fast tool is using an external model, right, on our servers, whereas the contour tool is completely local to RedBrick AI. And the reason that we do that for fast is because, as outlined in our privacy policy, we do calculations and compute embeddings based on the pixel mask, based on rather the pixels. That occurs on our servers. We are based out of the United States. So just in the interest of total transparency and openness with clients, that is why we have fast off by default in projects. But I got off on a little side tangent here. Again, we see that, my contour and this interpolated slice didn't quite come to the range that I wanted to. So all I would have to do is come in with a brush tool, or I could even stick with the same contour tool and even this out. But I'm personally a fan of the pen tool. And that's one of my favorite things about RedBrick, is that there's several ways to do the same thing. And it really depends on what works best for you. So in terms of annotation, I'm planning to wrap things up here. We've already discussed things like comments. We've discussed the queue. We've discussed the help button here in the bottom, as well as all of our keyboard shortcuts and things like this. I'll briefly talk about task states here to wrap up. We have another question. What can I do? On a contrast study, a demo of the region grow tool on a contrast study. Yes, would you, are you referring to, well, I could just very quickly go to a T1 contrast enhanced. Would that hopefully work for your purposes? I'll do a T1 contrast and, well, maybe let's do a T2. That's probably going to be a little better here. So if that does not work, let me know. Chat. Yeah. Actually, I'm going to just, Yashavanta, if you don't mind, I will do that right at the end. Could you kindly tell me if this T2 structure will be okay? And I will wrap up this very quickly, and then we can, I'll come back and do the grow tool version of this T2. I'll just do the ventricles or the white matter or something. So Yashavanta, please let me know if that's okay with you. And we will just wrap up here with task states. Task states. You, as a labeler, have the option of skipping a task if you want to come back to it later. That will give you a special icon in the taskbar. And you can also save a task as a draft. Saving a task as a draft allows you to return back to it if you want to continue work on it, especially if you have a big volume, a big study. Maybe you have lots of series. But when you're totally done, when you're completely done with your annotation, all you have to do is click on Finalize to push the study that you're currently working on down your project pipeline. What do I mean when I say project pipeline? If we remember way back from the beginning of this webinar, we had a nice project pipeline that was created by our admin. So in this case, if I, the labeler in the label stage, push and finalize this task, it will go off to review. And again, your project could be internal review, external review. You can have several review stages here. You can have no review stages. It's completely up to you and your team in terms of what is best for your data pipeline specifically. I will very quickly touch on another type of project that exists in RedBrick that is called consensus. So when you open a consensus project, consensus is fundamentally different in the sense that a standard RedBrick AI project by default has a single study that is worked on by a single labeler. That single labeler then produces a single annotation set and is pushed, as I said, to the review stage to ground truth to create a single ground truth. Consensus allows you to have as many labelers as you would like contribute to a study. And they do that blindly. So hypothetically, if I have, in this case, let's just get into it. This is the admin view of my data page. So I'm in a consensus project. I have several labelers here. I can see that one of my labelers has already submitted their annotations for this task, and another one still needs to. So when I review this task specifically, I will see both of their annotation versions, and I can choose which one is better, or I can create a novel one of my own based on their input, and that becomes a single ground truth. So broadly speaking, consensus is multiple labelers, a single ground truth. Default RedBrick is one labeler, one ground truth. And then bearing in mind that in the review stage, you can also apply changes. You can also send things back to your labeler if you feel things need to be redone. But that is largely what consensus does. And on top of what the purpose of that being that sometimes people really want to be able to evaluate labor performance, right? You want to be able to look at how people are annotating comparatively the same structures. You can take, you can create acceptance tests even by using a baseline set of annotations and uploading them and setting them to your labelers. And then your labelers will work, and their work will be quantitatively measured against the output of the baseline. And you'll get what we call inter-annotator agreement here. In this case, a consensus score, which is the extent to which your labelers agreed with each other and performed the same annotation work in the exact same place. Okay. Finally, and we'll wrap this up here, get to the question. What you can do with the Python SDK is a wide variety of things. You've seen evidence of some of these things here throughout the platform, right? So when I'm talking about metadata, things that can be tucked into places, you can have metadata that's applied directly on a series, as I said here, metadata that is applied directly to a study in terms of instructions. If you need to supply your labelers again with links, images, rich text, you can do all of that here with the help of our Python SDK to make your annotator's labeling experience as directed and guided as possible. We by default, when you export annotations from a project on RedBrick, you're going to export them in Nifty. But if you need access to non-standard formats, things like RT-struct, things like a PNG, you can control that all using the Python SDK as well. But just speaking from experience, a large portion of what I see our clients using the SDK for is for automating the creation and management of tasks, and also accessing the statistics that are built into RedBrick AI. So things like an audit trail, a linear history of everything that's happened to a task, who's worked on it, how long have they worked on it, what have they done to it. These things are all accessible for export via the SDK. Things as well as labeler active labeling time. Do you need to get a report for a labeler in just an exported format? We make these things in much more possible using Python. So with that, I'm going to, oh, gosh, I'm so sorry, contrast study. I hope that this is going to be good enough for the purposes that you're speaking to here. I'll just very quickly do, not a glioma, but maybe ventricles. Let's just do the ventricles. Let's set the grow tool. I'm going to set this to 3D, and I will just do the same thing, left click and drag. And you'll see I'm getting similar hole issues here. But actually, you know what we can even do instead? Let's get a 3D view in here. Let's get turn on NPR layout. Here we go. Let's get the labeler on and get this going here. Contrast enhanced. There we go. It's filling up very nicely. You get the ventricles coming in, and the ventricles expanding into what I would assume are the medium artery, the arteries in the center of the brain, whose name I can't remember right now. But same thing. I would then come in with hole filling. Where's our hole filler? There we go. I am just misclicking all over the place today. I can very easily hole fill this in, just clicking this in to fill this in. And again, I have the option of doing this in a slice by slice, or I can just click it once and let my computer run that for a moment, and that will fill in the vast majority of holes here. So let's minimize this viewport. Let's take a look at what our ventricles kind of look like. We can maybe see that they've gone slightly farther than we want, but it's very easy to just come in and delete those annotations. Or what I would rather do in this specific use case is maybe do this again and not pull so far away from where I wanted to annotate. But I do hope that that addresses your question. So if you have any other questions about the contrast studies or a specific data type, though, that's a great segue. Please let me know. I'll be very happy to reach out to us, discuss these things. I am here to enable your success, and I'd be very happy to discuss a specific annotation flow or how we can get you set up on our platform here. So I'm going to call this answered live. I'm going to call this answered live. Next, we have anonymous attendee. Can we look at a label and an image look like together in 3D view? Yes, yes, we can. Let's just come back to our very nicely annotated. Zoom has many submenus that are not terribly well thought out. All right. Okay. I'm going to choose AAA for this. Oh, goodness. That's not what I wanted to do. There we are. There we go. That's my fault for misclicking. Again, with the misclicking, I'm telling you. When you put these things together in a 3D view, this is generally what they can look like. With the 3D views specifically itself, you have the several presets to choose from, or you can just adjust the label opacity, or sorry, the opacity of the window shift globally, or just do it manually here. It's completely up to you. So let me just center this for you, so we can get a very nice front and center view of what this is going to look like. I will say this is rather GPU intensive at times, depending on your computer, your network speed, and things like that. So that's why you're seeing a very slight drag. But I have my start to my kidney that I have here, and this very nice descending aorta as well. So I do hope that that was an adequate answer to your question. Enhancing and non-enhancing part of the demo. Yeah, sure. Yes. So this is maybe a question that I would like to dig into offline, but largely speaking, when you say differentiate, we offer several ways of doing that. It could be for individual object labels. It could be metadata for an object label. That could be one way to differentiate between the edema, the tumor, the enhancing and non-enhancing part. We have many people that are working on very similar data sets, and they've come to a variety of solutions regarding to how they're delineating this. So I would really need to discuss this personally with you, if that would be okay. What I can do is send a follow-up to this message, to this webinar that will supply you with my email address, and we can have a conversation about how to go about producing the annotations that you're looking to produce. Does that sound okay? If it does not sound okay, please let me know. Yeah, I will copy this for my purposes right now. Thank you very much. Duly noted. Okay, super. Thanks so much. Alrighty, and with that, we've moved to the official Q&A. We've seen the labeler side of things. We've seen a little bit of the admin side of things. We've discussed everything that I can possibly think of to discuss without more specific information on your user flow. So please, any questions, concerns, comments? I'm happy to discuss even the smallest things. Thank you. You're very welcome. Yes, the recording of this video, I can confirm internally, but I'm 99% sure this is going to go up on our YouTube channel, because we're, again, trying to propagate this information as widely as we possibly can. So I can get that up to YouTube within 24 hours and include that in a follow-up email, or Elton, if you'd prefer it. Well, yeah, does a follow-up email sound okay? Or I can just get either the link to the recording or the YouTube video. Will that address your need for the recording? I'm hoping it will. If it does not, again, please let me know. Follow-up email. Sounds great. Email to Elton. I am writing notes. email rec to Hilton. Super. Thank you. I duly noted that. Please expect to hear from me within 24 hours. It was great. Thank you. Thank you, anonymous attendee. It's my pleasure to be here. I love the job that I do. So I appreciate the fact that at least someone out there thinks I'm doing it well. Okay. Thank you very much. It seems like I'll do 30 seconds more, or let's just do 60 seconds more to get final questions in at this stage. And if not, I will let everybody get back to their days. So let's count to 60 together for any final questions or concerns. The pleasure is mine, Angela. Thank you very much for attending, and thank you for the questions. I always love fielding questions because it allows me to get closer to what you need in terms of annotating, getting your work done. And that's exactly what I'm here for. So I always tell my clients I love to be bothered. Okay, it seems like that's it. We are actually right at the top of an hour here, so we fit that in very nicely. Good job, everybody. Thank you very much for attending, and thank you as well, Alan. It's been a pleasure speaking to all of you. Look for this recording to be included in the follow-up email. And if you have any other questions, you can hit me at ben.stewart@RedBrick AI. I'll include that information in the follow-up email as well. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening or day or morning, wherever you are. I hope it is a good time of day. And that's it. Thanks for attending. Let's wind this down here. Turn off the screen share.